How Napoleon crushed Prussia in 33 days. December 1805. At the Battle of Austerlitz, Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of the French, crushed the combined forces of Austria and Russia. Napoleon now ruled the European continent, and he would impose his will upon it however he pleased. By February 1806, he dispatched Marshal Massena to overthrow the King of Naples, who had dared to side with France's enemies. In his place, Napoleon installed his own brother, Joseph, on the throne. Another brother, Louis, was made King of Holland. His German allies Bavaria and Württemberg were elevated to kingdoms. Meanwhile, Napoleon crowned himself protector of the Confederation of the Rhine, a new German alliance of small states, which pledged 60,000 troops to his cause. To acknowledge this new reality, Emperor Francis of Austria formally dissolved the Holy Roman Empire, an institution born under Charlemagne 1,000 years ago, now stripped of purpose or influence. Austria had been humiliated, but France remained at war with Britain, Sweden, and Russia. By summer 1806, all eyes turned to Prussia. King Frederick William III regarded Napoleon with deep suspicion, and had long considered joining the coalition against him, especially after the crushing loss at Austerlitz. He was heavily influenced by his wife, the beloved and charismatic Queen Louise, a fierce critic of France and of Napoleon. She led the powerful war party at the Prussian court. Trouble emerged over Hanover, a German state belonging to King George III of Britain, seized by the French and offered by Napoleon to Prussia as compensation. But now the Prussians discovered that Napoleon had secretly offered Hanover back to Britain. In exchange for peace, Frederick's advisers convinced him that war was the most honorable response. But Prussia made a strategic blunder. They issued an ultimatum to Napoleon without coordinating with their new allies in the Fourth Coalition, whose forces were too far away to provide help. Who could possibly stand against Napoleon's Grande Armée? With only the support of the small kingdom of Saxony, in 1806, the Prussian army still held a fearsome reputation, and 50 years earlier, under Frederick the Great, Napoleon, a student of history, respected that legacy. But the Prussian army had long rested on its laurels. Its generals were old. Its general staff was bogged down by bureaucracy and petty rivalries. Their operations were sluggish and predictable, and yet Prussian troops still held pride and resolve. Their cavalry, in particular, was considered the finest in Europe. In October 1806, Napoleon invaded Saxony with 166,000 men and 256 guns, marching in 3 columns. The French crossed the forested mountains of the Thuringian Wald. Guided by skilled scouts and spies, Napoleon aimed to threaten Leipzig, drawing the Prussians into a decisive battle, one he believed would take place near Jena. In fact, the Prussians were further west, near Erfurt. Along the west bank of the river Solly, their commander, the Duke of Brunswick, attempted to threaten Napoleon's flank, but misjudging the French speed, he ordered a retreat northward to find a new defensive position on October 10th at Saalfeld. Marshal Lannes' the Fifth Corps collided with a Prussian vanguard led by Prince Louis Ferdinand, the king's cousin. The Prussians were trapped, and the prince was killed in combat, cut down by a French officer of the 10th Hussars. 3 days later, Lannes spotted a larger Prussian force near Jena. He alerted Napoleon, who, believing he had found the Prussian main army, immediately ordered his corps to concentrate for a battle. Marshal Bernadotte's the First Corps and Davout's the Third Corps crossed the Solly to strike the Prussian flank from the north, but Napoleon was wrong. Lannes faced a strong force of 35,000 Prussians under General Hohenlohe. The actual main Prussian army, 52,000 men under the Duke of Brunswick, was marching toward Davout's position. And further north, October 14, 1806, the Battle of Jena began at 6:30 a.m. Under thick morning fog, Marshal Lannes seized a ridge west of town, giving his troops high ground near the river. His first objective: dislodge the Prussians, making room for the rest of the French army to deploy. His infantry led the charge, triggering brutal fighting round the villages of Cospeda, Clausewitz, and Latzroda. Meanwhile, Aucros the 7th Corps advanced through a ravine. Emerging on Lannes' left, Soult's the 4th Corps climbed the slope to form the right flank. Napoleon arrived at the center and massed 25 artillery pieces to pound the Prussian positions. At Vierch and Heilg and Dot, the village changed hands, repeatedly captured, lost, recaptured. At 10 a.m., Soult's infantry secured Clausewitz, but was counterattacked at its right flank near Redigen. A bold charge by Soult's light cavalry drove back the Prussians and captured enemy standards Dotters. The 6th Corps arrived on the ridge. The fiery Marshal Ney, ignoring orders, hurled himself into combat round Viersenheiligen, only to be cut off and rescued by the Imperial Guard cavalry. Hohenlohe was expecting 15,000 reinforcements under General Rockall, but held a mostly defensive posture, hesitant to counterattack, but time had run out. Napoleon had begun the battle with only 25,000 men. By 12:30 p.m., reinforcements swelled his ranks to 96,000. As the Emperor rode past the guard, a young soldier cried out, "Forward!" Napoleon stopped, demanded to know who spoke, and scolded the man no one was entitled to speak until he had commanded 30 battles. Yet now, the moment had come. Napoleon unleashed a massive frontal assault. The Prussians began to retreat, at first orderly, but soon in chaos. Marshal Murat's cavalry charged, cutting down hundreds in the rout. Just then, Rutschel's 2 divisions arrived, but it was too late. They launched a hopeless assault, shattered by French artillery, and were overrun by heavy cavalry. 12 miles to the north, near Auerstädt, Marshal Davout was marching southwest, expecting to flank the Prussians at Jena. Instead, he encountered Brunswick's main force, Davout's the 3rd Corps, 27,000 men and 48 guns, faced over 50,000 Prussians at a 2-1 disadvantage. Bernadotte's the 1st Corps, ordered to support Davout, was nowhere to be found. Known as the Iron Marshal, Davout remained unshaken. He positioned his vanguard round Hassenhausen, forming infantry squares to repel repeated cavalry assaults by Blücher's advance guard. 2 more infantry divisions arrived, reinforcing the line under relentless attacks, but the Prussians were slow and poorly coordinated. They failed to exploit their numbers or break Davout's line. At a crucial moment, the Duke of Brunswick was shot in the face, a mortal wound. King Frederick William took direct command. Some Prussian units never even joined the fight. The king, believing he faced Napoleon himself, hesitated. At 12:15 p.m., Marshal Davout counterattacked. The Prussians broke and fled. Davout had achieved an astonishing victory, but at great cost. His corps suffered 25% casualties, while inflicting double the losses on the enemy. When Napoleon learned of Davout's victory, his first reaction was disbelief, then admiration. He praised his Iron Marshal and granted him the title Duke of Auerstädt. Marshal Bernadotte, in contrast, was nearly punished for failing to support Davout. Napoleon's army launched a relentless pursuit of the shattered Prussians, never allowing them time to regroup. 2 weeks after the twin battles of Jena and Auerstädt, the Grande Armée, led by Davout's heroic the 3rd Corps, entered Berlin the next day. General Hohenlohe surrendered at Prenzlau. At Lübeck, Blücherland, 20,000 Prussians were forced to capitulate after a fierce battle. Another 25,000 surrendered at Magdeburg to Marshal Ney. In just 33 days, Prussia had lost 20,000 dead, 140,000 prisoners, 800 cannons, 250 regimental colours. It was a national humiliation the proud Prussians, especially men like General Blücher, would never forget and never forgive. Unlike Saxony, King Frederick William refused to make peace with Napoleon. He fled to East Prussia, vowing to resist and placing his hopes in the Russian army moving west to save his shattered kingdom. This was another glorious triumph for Napoleon and his Grande Armée. But their war was far from over. Let history decide. Was Napoleon Bonaparte one of the greatest military commanders of all time, or one of the most reckless? To dive deeper into stories of triumph, failure, and the true lessons of war, check out the Great Courses Plus series, Great Military History and the Lessons They Teach. In just 33 days of 1806, Napoleon shattered the once mighty Prussian army at the twin battles of Jena and Auerstädt. It was a stunning display of speed, strategy, and military brilliance. But while it marked another triumph for Napoleon's Grande Armée, it also planted the seeds of future resistance and revenge. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy history and want to support the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to us.